Does a Black Magic Craft Basecoat really do anything for your foam craft projects? Well, that's what we're going to be finding out today, right here on the Storycraft Society. Let's go. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. My name is Garmin. This, of course, is the Storycraft Society, and we are here for an exciting series of tests this week. This is something that I really meant to do for a long time. I should have done it a long time ago, and now I'm glad I finally am. When I started making terrain for my Dungeons & Dragons games, I chose to make it out of XPS foam. I did that because of watching Jeremy from Black Magic Craft. I make my dungeon tiles in a 3x3 system that are 1/2 inch thick, just like him, and then every time I would make a piece, the undercoat that I would put on it is the Black Magic Craft Basecoat. For those who don't know, that is a 50-50 mixture of black acrylic craft paint and matte Modpodge, and I've always believed that that is going to strengthen my foam and protect it, as well as give me a black undercoat before I start painting. But the one thing that I've never done is questioned what it's actually doing for me. How much is this actually protecting my foam? That's what we're finding out today. So we're gonna dive down into what my tests are going to be. I've made 3 different tiles. The number 1 is just XPS foam with black acrylic craft paint on it. This is basically, it might as well just be green foam. So that's my number 1. Number 2 is I did a non-diluted coat of matte Modpodge, so just pure matte Modpodge over the whole thing. And then I painted black acrylic craft paint over top of it. That way it gave kind of a similar look to everything, so if like the paint chips off or something like that, we would know easier. And then number 3 is Black Magic Craft Basecoat. Like I said, it's that 50-50 mixture of black acrylic craft paint and matte Modpodge. Now, the first thing that I'm gonna say out of these is that the Black Magic Craft Basecoat and just the straight black acrylic craft paint were the fastest to apply. I had to wait a lot and wait when it came to doing the matte Modpodge first and then putting the paint over the top of it. That's kind of automatically a check into the column of Black Magic Craft Basecoat, because if it does do something, it was faster to do it this way. But these are the pieces I'm going to be testing. The next thing is, what are the tests going to be? So I have 3 tests planned. So the first one is going to be a weight test. I'm going to set a heavy 2-liter bottle on one of each of these. I'm gonna let it there for a few hours, and then I'm gonna take it off and see, did the matte Modpodge strengthen the foam enough that it allowed that weight not to end up denting the foam? The next one is going to be what I'm calling the impact test. So I'm gonna take a heavy metal miniature and I'm gonna be dropping that onto each of the pieces. The final one is what I'm calling the transportation test. I'm gonna take 3 of these tiles and I'm going to put it into a box, and then I'm gonna shake the heck out of that box. So if you're playing at a gaming convention or a game store and you keep putting all of your foam terrain into a box to transport it back and forth, does the Black Magic Craft Basecoat protect against wear in those boxes? So those are the 3 tests. Now all we can do is just jump into it. Let's go. Oh, and real quick before we move on, because it's YouTube and I'm like legally required to say this or something, if you enjoy this content, please leave me a like down below. Leave me a comment and let me know what you think of the tests that I do. Please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. Also, we have merch. I have both stores linked in the description below, so if you want to support the channel financially, I would thank you for that forever. So, let's jump into our tests. So, to start test 1, we have our 1, 2, and 3 tiles. We're going to take, and I'm going to set these out. Dang it. So, to start this test, we have our 1, our 2, and our 3 tiles, and I'm going to set those out. Then I'm going to pull these massive 2-liter bottles out, and I'm going to set them on top of the tiles. With this done, we are going to just let these set until I get all other parts of the video finished. That way, at the end of the video, I can reveal whether these did anything, and they have like the maximum amount of time to set on there that I can afford to give them. Moving on to test number 2, which is the impact test. For the impact test, I'm going to be taking this metal Hero Forge Mini, and I'm going to be dropping it onto each of them. Now, the way that I wanted to do this was to make sure that it's getting various different heights of drops. So the way that I'm going to do that is by getting out my ruler, and I'm going to set it up beside the piece, and then I'm going to be doing a 2-inch drop, a 4-inch drop, and a 6-inch. It's kind of out of frame a little bit, but a 6-inch drop onto each of the pieces, and then we'll compare them after we're done. So let's start with that. So this is number 1, which only has black acrylic craft paint on it. Start with the 2-inch drop. Which looked like it didn't really do anything. We're going to move on to a 4-inch drop. All right, so that certainly left a dent. And then let's do the 6-inch drop, which absolutely left a big mark. All right, let's move on and do the same thing with the other 2. All right, so taking a look at these, I tried to drop in this corner for the 2-inch, in the middle for the 4, and then out in this corner for the 6. And this is just the black acrylic craft paint. So you can see it definitely left marks in the 2-inch drop, the 4-inch drop, and the 6-inch drop. The 6-inch, of course, being the worst of them, but I guess that makes sense. But here's what I found really interesting. If we switch over to the solid Modpodge, here's my drop for the 2-inch, which also left a little bit of a dent. Here is the mark that it left from the 4-inch drop, which is a little bit less. And then these are the marks from the drop on the 6-inch side. Now, what I noticed, I don't know if this is going to be able to be seen or not, but this ripped the foam. I don't know if you can see the little tiny bit of green that's poking through right here. Whereas with the Modpodge that was not diluted, it doesn't have any signs of ripping. It did dent, but it didn't rip down to the foam, even from the 6-inch drop. So this is certainly a little bit more durable than this is. When we come over to the Black Magic Craft Basecoat, now we're talking, we've got this dent here from the 2-inch drop, we've got this from the 4-inch drop, and then we've got this one from the 6-inch drop. I don't think that there's any green poking through here, but it definitely took a bigger dent than the non-diluted stuff. So that kind of makes sense. But as far as the impact tests go, my final thoughts are these 2 are stronger than just the black paint is, but not by nearly as big of a margin. Surprising that it's not more durable than that. All right, moving on to the transportation test. So for the impact test, I'm going to be taking these 3 tiles and dropping them into this cardboard box. I'm going to fold it up, and then I'm going to take it outside and I'm going to shake the living heck out of it. I'm just going to go wild and just like put on some good dance music and just go crazy. It's like 1,000 degrees. All right, so candid reaction time. I have just finished shaking the living heck out of these things, and now we are going to check and see what the result of it is. Okay, so here is 1, 2, and 3. So the first thing that I'm noticing just for sure is all of the edges got majorly rounded. I don't know how easy that is to see, but all the edges got crazy rounded, and one, which is just the black acrylic craft paint, is pretty dinged up on basically all of its corners, all of its sides, the top surface, pretty dinged up. And also I noticed that the paint is coming off in a lot of places. The next one is the just solid, non-diluted matte Mod Podge with black paint over top. Now this one, to me, the corners are just as rounded, maybe slightly less, but these corners are great. I mean, there's little tiny marks, but there's not that many. So to me, these edges are protected way better with the non-diluted Mod Podge and the black paint over it. And then, of course, the corners have some places like this where it did bust loose. And then on to Black Magic Craft Basecoat. So this one, the corners look better. A little bit of the paint did come off. These edges are just as good as these edges are, and way better than these edges. Like, let's see, I'll find a bad one from the Black Magic Craft. So this is a bad one. I don't know how easy it is to see those two, but this is just nicked like crazy. And this is one of the worst ones, and there's a little dent right here, but that's it. Now, of course, the corners are all rounded, but again, coming back to this, I think, again, in this example, these two are both the winners. And now we are back to our final test, which is the weight test. Pull these off, looking at our 1, 2, and 3. And now we're gonna pick these up, take them back to the desk, and take a closer look. So the weight test, I'm gonna be completely real, is the most shocking. I think that the camera does a pretty good job right now of showing off what I saw as soon as I pulled the 2 liters off, which is that 1 and 3 have almost no markings. Now 1 does have a little bit here, you can see it, but 3 like literally has no markings at all, whereas 2 has the worst markings. You can see them here and here, which to me doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Now, it could be that the test was not a really accurate one or something, but the winners here are 1 and 3, and I would say 3 is a clear-cut winner. Really, really shocked with that test. But all right, let's jump to the outro, and I will give you kind of my final thoughts over this whole thing. All right, so thank you for going on this journey with me. This is the first time I've ever done a video like this where I'm specifically testing something that someone else has done. So I enjoyed the process. So I might try to do more of these as things come up. If you think of anything that would be interesting like this for me to do, let me know down in the comments below, because I really, really enjoyed this. But let's look at what the final results are. And I'm gonna be real, this shocked me a lot. Now I'm gonna put a disclaimer on this because this is really important. We're working with foam. And so what that means is foam is really, really easy to dent and mess up and that sort of thing. It's just one of the unfortunate things about working in foam. So basically in all of the tests, no matter what they were, with the exception of the weight test, I guess, I saw markings and impact on all of them. It's not like Black Magic Craft Basecoat or matte Mod Podge is going to protect your foam from getting any kind of damage at all. It's just going to protect it from tearing, it seems like. But yeah, so before I say anything, I wanted to put that disclaimer on it. It is foam. Foam gets messed up. That's just unfortunately how it goes. So we're gonna start with test number 1, which was the weight test. That is the most shocking. Black Magic Craft Basecoat was the winner in the test that I did, and it was the winner by a lot. The next one is test 2, that's the impact test. Now, this is where all of them did, just honestly, in my opinion, way worse than I thought they would do. I thought that the black acrylic craft paint was gonna get ripped to shreds, while as the other two were gonna be really protected, and honestly, they just weren't. The one thing that is the difference is, at least with these two, with the Mod Podge involved, it didn't seem to rip the foam, it only dented it. Whereas with the black acrylic craft paint, it seemed to rip the foam when something hit it and impacted it. The final test was the transport test. And with that one, I noticed that all of the far corners got very, very rounded by really abusive box shaking. But it was so interesting that both of the Mod Podge variants allowed the corners, or I guess I should say the edges, to stay intact and not get messed up, as well as the surface seemed to be a lot better off than it was when it was just the black acrylic craft paint. So overwhelmingly, I mean, you can see the spread of the winners. It's the 3s and then a couple of 2s. The next thing is what's easier to put onto your piece. and having a pre-mixed mixture of the black acrylic craft paint and matte Mod Podge seems to save me a lot of time. Like I said earlier in the video, making the number 2 tiles took me way longer than either the 1 or the 3. So for me, Jeremy does it again. Black Magic Craft Basecoat comes out on top. I mean, I'm happy because I've been doing it for all these years, and if I would have gotten other results, I would have felt like a not very smart person. So anyway, this is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, definitely leave me a like down below. Leave me a comment of something that you think that I did right or something that you think I did wrong. Honestly, any comments are awesome, and I will be glad to talk back with you and share in your thoughts about the whole process. If you're new to the channel and you haven't subscribed, please consider doing that. That goes a long way to helping the channel out, and there's a lot of content on this channel, Dungeons and Dragons related, so if you like this, I think you're gonna really like the other stuff you find as well. With that said, that's it. Go buy some merch if you want to support the channel financially, and until next week, I'll be seeing you.